G'day guys, welcome back to the lab. COVID-19 lockdown day, I think it's 13. Doesn't really matter, does it? It's just another day in paradise. So it's Tuesday anyway. And just going to carry on with this bloody exhaust system on the Gloria. I was looking to figure out exactly where those fuel lines need to go in relation to the diff and all that sort of carry on, and if we need any different fittings, and if I can even find any of those different fittings. And then I realised I can't really do that because I can't hold up the diff and the exhaust system at the same time, so I might as well get the mounts done on the exhaust system instead of hanging that off the transmission jack. So let's have a look at what we're doing with that.
So the easiest one to start with is this one that comes off the transmission mount. So this part of the transmission mount is mounted directly to the transmission, strangely enough, and that all moves at the same rate as the engine and everything, so you want to try and tie this in to the engine to avoid twisting and pulling on your manifolds and manifold studs and gaskets and all that sort of carry on. So I've carefully made that balance pipe parallel to that, and just a couple of millimeters out of alignment with, oh, you can't see it because of the lighting, sorry, maybe. So my fingers are on the back face of that mount there, right? So I've made that so I can make virtually a flat plate from here down to the front edge of that and get a good purchase on it, nice and strong, and that'll hold that part of the exhaust system perfectly. Unfortunately, I don't have any 3mm thick stainless steel plate, which would be ideal. I've got plenty of steel, but no stainless steel. I do have this maybe 2/3 of a sheet of 2mm stainless steel. So because we can't just pop down the road and get some material because everything's locked down, I'm going to cut two pieces out, weld around the whole outside of them to bond them together, basically laminate the things together. I can get my little fold that I need to get done, do that before I weld them together to make it nice and strong and easy to fold, and that'll get that out of the way. When I've done that part, we need to focus on the rest of it back here. So the original system has got, that the car had, the original system, where is it? There's the light. It's got a rubber mount on the back face of the floor pan here. So we do actually have some bigger ones of those left over that held the power steering pump in the Sylvia project. So we could use a couple of those, one on each side perhaps, or maybe even two on each muffler to stop that tendency to rotate on this V-band clamp. So that would get that done, and then we need to look at whatever we're going to do towards the back. We probably need to support this tailpipe somewhere, whether it's attached to the inner rear guard or onto the chassis rail or something like that. Just need to support those a little bit as well, because that's quite a long distance from here over the top of the diff and into the back of that muffler. That'll bounce around something chronic otherwise. Right, so I changed my plan a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. We've got a bit of triangulation going on with our mount now, so that's actually better than laminating the two of them together. So obviously, as you can see, if you can figure that out from what you're looking at there, we've got one side just going straight up to the mount off the front of that tube, and on the other side goes up on an angle about 45 degrees or something like that anyway, fold it up and then bolt it onto the same point at the top. Won't actually need to weld those 2 points together at the top. The studs and nuts will do that job. Not too sure how shonky my welding is there. I guess I'll see that when I edit the video. A little bit tricky to see it from underneath the car, but not too bad. That certainly was a bit easier. Not too terrible. A little bit untidy there, the rest of it's all pretty good. Not bad for an exhaust system under the car anyway. So that's that done. That'll hold the front up. We've still got to do some stuff at the back here. So I've jacked that up as far as it would possibly go till it's hitting the floor to should clean that off, shouldn't I? Looks a bit yucky. Thanks for that battery charger. Yes, cordless drill recharge. Cheers for letting us know right in the middle of the video. Never mind. So jack that up as high as it'll go, up against the floor, and then put that mount on the front there, so that'll be under a little bit of tension when we let this go. It'll hold some of the weight. So really we've got 4 more mounts to get on with. I've got to find those other 2 rubber mounts that I was talking about to go into the front there.
Alright, so we rolled through on day 14 on Wednesday. So I was having to fluff around trying to figure out what I was going to do with these mounts for the rear mufflers, and not having much luck. Bit of a brain fade, the more you look at it, the less you're going to get done. Put it down, walk away, do something else. I didn't play with my Lego, but I was tempted to, so never mind. Do have a game plan right now though, so let's go through that. Bit of a mess on the bench here. So I found the mounts that were used for the power steering pump and the Sylvia, and considered those as an option because that's what had been fitted to the car on the previous exhaust system, or something similar to that anyway. I think there's one on the bench here. There it is. However, when you look at that, that's actually that's failing. So I looked into the specs in general. I'm not sure exactly what brand those are, where they've come from. I looked into the specs of what they can actually handle for weight as far as shear and compression and tension, and they're not very good. So they can go over there with that other one there, which is not very good, not very helpful. Found another brand new one of these, brand new old stock we'll call it, so it's doesn't look like it's been in a car anyway. Doesn't look like it's been used as such. It's just been kicking around on the shelf along with my other one that's still in the bag. So I've got 2 of those, and then these were kicking around underneath the handbrake over there under the folder. So these are a similar sort of thing, except they have a bush in them instead of the smaller rubber hole. So we've got 4 proper exhaust mounts that we can use, and then what I need to do to make use of those is modify, or well, not modify really, but I had put that riv nut there with the intention of using those other rubber mounts that I showed you, the ones with the studs out the end. I've changed my mind, don't want to use those anymore. That was put there because there's already one over here for the original exhaust in the car. So we're not going to use those points anymore. They won't work. However, I could put another one down there and create a rubber mount, create a mount that bolts onto there with a spigot out here for the proper exhaust mount, and then do something on the front of the muffler. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So one each of those mounts on each side, so I haven't got 2 similar ones on one side and 2 different ones over there, if you know what I mean. So there's the ones with the small holes, and there's the second handies with the bigger holes, so one of each on each side to balance it out. Otherwise one muffler will be supported differently to the other and stuff and things. We can replace these later on with brand new ones once we can get our hands on this sort of stuff when the lockdown's finished. So you put 2 on, one would hold the weight, right? But you put 2 on and you triangulate them like that. That stops the ability for the muffler to swing, not that it can a lot, I just tried it and couldn't move it barely, stops it moving that way a lot. It tries to keep it central. So that'll work quite nicely. They are just held in with riv nuts up on the top there. I'm not sure how much light we've got. Plenty. This bloody camera is good on this phone, isn't it? Way better than the other one. So they're just held in with riv nuts like that one that you can see right smack bang in the middle of the screen. There's not a whole crap load of weight on those, and it's in shear, it's not in tension. So riv nuts are perfect for that sort of situation. They'll do that job just fine, and if they fail, they're really easy to replace. There's that random zoom that this thing does. Never mind. I'm going to build a nice fancy plate that goes onto the end here, and either a couple of nuts or riv nuts.
through here for the bolts from there, and we'll be done. Right, so welder's all fired up. Here's the plate we're going to put on the front of the muffler. 2 rib nuts in that, and shaped as best as practical for fitting on the front of the muffler. Relatively parallel, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So this is the bottom side here, and as you can see it's tapered or chamfered just a little bit, so that if any debris comes and hits it, hopefully it'll ride over the top of it rather than smashing the muffler off. That'll do. I'm going to weld that up, chuck it in the car, make sure it fits. Rightio, that side's on. It's all pretty good. As I said, we've got a little bit of a chamfer on the front there, so we have a possum head or something crash into that. Hopefully it'll go underneath it rather than try and rip it off. Not sure why I decided to try and polish off the weld. Probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but it'll look alright with a bit more of polish. Didn't bother with the top. Top is just a raw weld as per what the rest of these are. So that's not bad. Pretty sturdy. There's a whole car shaking on the hoist, so that's alright. I've got to give that a bit more of a clearance at the top there. Just to explain that to the guys that can't figure it out or haven't figured it out or noticed, if you look at that, the camera, I don't know why the camera doesn't sit perfectly horizontal. It's weird. It's just this gimbal type thing. The driver's side floor is about 15 to 20 mils lower than the passenger side floor. So although this is sitting with quite good clearance and the exhaust is relatively level to each side, driver's side has a little bit of a issue at the back here. So that's actually, it's a box section. Where this weld is through here, there's another panel that goes directly up and then across. So this is a big box section to give the back of the car a bit of strength. So this will need a very careful little channel or C-notch or whatever you want to call it. So basically a cut through here and a cut on the other side, and then a crescent shaped insert put in there to give us some room for the exhaust. Otherwise it probably will hit every now and then. The other thing, I guess I could just give it a yank and just put some tension on those mounts and have a bit more clearance that way, but I want to try and give him the ground clearance that he'll need to be able to go to KFC and all the shopping malls and not smash the exhaust onto the ground. So anyway, it's raining. That sucks for anyone who's stuck at home and can't get on with things. Not good for you. Slight adjustment required at the back here to get that up to the same height. Oh, I just did that. I haven't actually done up that V-band clamp at the front yet. It's not tight, so that's all right. Sorry, distracted. I can take care of the height difference here from that to the other side just with our little elbow we need to put in here and get on with whatever we're doing with this tip. There's a couple of options of something to buy off the shelf the customer's found, so we can look at that, or I can design something and make something. We've got heaps of time, so I might do that. It's probably more fun than just buying something and then trying to butcher it and make it fit. Done. Well, at least that part of it anyway. So this come out okay. It's always the way. The welding looks nicer on the top side of both of these. And the bit that you can see doesn't look as tidy. But never mind. It's an exhaust system. That just polishes up, get rid of all that discoloration, and it'll look beautiful. Need to make some bushes to go on. I think it's these inside ones. Sorry, the outside ones. They need the bush. They're the ones with the 10mm diameter hole in them instead of 8. So that's easy. Or I can have a look and see. I might be able to find another couple. But that appears to be pretty sturdy. That's the hoist cables rattling, not the car. So we good? I'll put a mount out here. I'll use those other ones I wasn't happy with holding the whole weight. They'll be alright just to steady the tailpipe. Hold it in the general area. We can actually conjure up a bit of a mount here somehow and have them in compression so they're in the strongest form for those mounts. And now I've got to get some cardboard organised and make up some tips to put on here out of, well, one. Don't need to do both, do we? Make one up out of cardboard and take a picture, send it to the owner, get the yeah right, cheer bro, and when he's happy with it, we'll get that built. So, I mean, that was not the easiest thing to get organised, because a little bit of lateral thinking required, based on, can't just bowl down the road and buy some 10mm stainless steel bar, which is what I would normally have done, or rod, and it would have arranged something quite different on the front of here to go onto those, but that's good. That works quite well as far as things getting deflected underneath rather than hooking the muffler like I talked about earlier, and probably easier to get it bolted onto the car with bolts to screw in through there rather than trying to organise bloody studs into rubber mounts. It's always a pain in the ass, and then they tend to walk around and fall off and stuff unless you bend over the end or run a bead around the end of it, or have a washer with a split pin. I'm trying to think of that word. So that's good. I'll carry on with the rest of all that. I've had a bit of a measure up with the drive shaft length. It's not going to be crazy long to do it in a one-piece shaft, so it might be alright. I'll talk with the drive shaft specialist. We're not going to get that done anytime soon, as I've mentioned, but I've had a look, and at full travel, the area of concern is this bit here, is the lowest part of the tunnel, and at full compression, so the car's bottomed out, you can still get quite a large shaft through without hitting there. So, and the rest of it's no problem at all, obviously. So yeah, it might be that we go with a one-piece shaft. Two-piece is actually better for high power and all that sort of carry on and keeping it quiet, etc. But it might be tricky making it work with all the angles that we've got. So yes, right, enough talking. Like, share, subscribe, etc. And see you next time. Cheers, bye.